So we're going to be hearing now from Jen Stoneham, and I can see Jen's there, ready and raring to go. Jen is one of our midwifery participants here, so I'm going to tee Jess up so she's ready to respond to you at the end of your presentation. But over to you, Jen, whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Jen Stoneham and I am a Band 6 midwife at Western Sussex Hospitals Trust. And my quality improvement projects for the Florence Nightingale Foundation is one element of a larger change I'm working to introduce, which would be providing a full breech birth service within my trust. My interest in vaginal breech birth peaked in 2014 when I facilitated my first physiological, which is upright breech birth. It wasn't the emergency we were taught to think it was, and it made me wonder if we could change that culture to make more options available for women. So since the term breech trial, which was a large trial and first published in the year 2000, and which looked at the safest mode of delivery for breech presentations, the evidence suggested that elective cesarean section was the safest option for women with breech presentations. And despite that being quite a largely flawed study, it massively changed practice, and vaginal breech births became incredibly rare, and a lot of clinicians lost their skills and confidence in facilitating a breech birth. More recent and more robust research indicates that vaginal breech birth can be almost as safe as a phallic or head down delivery if a skilled attendant is present at the birth. I joined Western Sussex Hospitals in 2016 and found the culture around vaginal breech birth very antiquated. So the recent research and the RCOG recommendations weren't being implemented in practice. There was also no teaching or clinical updates on vaginal breech birth. The way women were being counselled was strongly biased towards an elective caesarean section delivery. I felt the issue needed to be addressed so we could offer fully informed choice to women and their families. But the first sort of part of the problem I wanted to look at was improving clinical skills and clinician confidence in facilitating vaginal breech births. So to try and achieve my aim, I arranged an RCM and RCOG approved study day taught by the Breech Birth Network. I had attended this study day before and found it hugely informative and inspirational. I spoke to our head of midwifery and our 2 local RCM branches and was able to obtain some funding towards the day, and so any participants that wanted to come along, it was much more affordable. So to measure my outcomes, I provided a 2-part questionnaire for all attendees to assess their confidence facilitating vaginal breech birth. First of all, in the traditional lithotomy, so with the lady on her back with her legs up in stirrups, and in the all fours or physiological position, which recent evidence is showing to have much better outcomes than the traditional lithotomy. As part of the course, the attendees were also assessed as being clinically competent in facilitating breech birth using the skills taught on the study day. So as well as their clinical competence, the confidence levels increased by 20% for lithotomy births and a quite significant increase of 40% for facilitating a breech birth in an all fours or physiological position. As well as the conclusive statistical evidence obtained from the feedback I received from the study day was overwhelmingly positive. Participants were keen to discuss their learning with the colleagues, and I've received multiple requests to run the day again. I hope to do this in the next financial year so that I can hopefully obtain the same amount of funding that participants who were able to attend the next day. The aims of the quality improvement project were achieved. Attendees had completed their practical skills training and their confidence was significantly increased. The main limitations I experienced, as with many things this year, were due to COVID-19 restrictions. I had to reduce the number of attendees that I would have liked to have had to allow for social distancing. So my main learning points from undertaking the project were developing an understanding of how my trust learning processes operate and finding ways to integrate my knowledge and passion within this. The pandemic added another level of stress to arranging the training. However, the outcomes were so much more than I'd hoped for, and it feels like the hard work is starting to pay off now. I've already begun smaller drop-in teaching sessions, but I hope to get vaginal breech birth training on our annual mandatory training for midwives and obstetricians. And sort of moving forwards, once staff are appropriately trained, I would like to develop a personalised counselling plan to ensure individualised, informed choices are available to all women who have a breech presentation at term. Just got a couple of references from my slides there. And lastly, I'd like to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of Emma Spillane and Dr. Sean Walker from the Breech Birth Network, who developed and facilitated the study day that I ran. They have also given me the opportunity to teach with them over the last 18 months on the study days, which has been an amazing opportunity. I would also like to thank Western Sussex Hospitals and the Florence Nightingale Foundation for giving me the opportunity to undertake this project. Thank you.
Jen, that was really, really fantastic, and well done you. Yeah, it's a fascinating one, this, isn't it, about breech birth, and I'm so pleased that you've done this project, because it really does show that it demonstrates that women do need to have an option, don't they? That they shouldn't be kind of taken down one route just because of outdated evidence, to be honest, as you quite rightly stated. You know, there is new emerging evidence that says that actually vaginal birth can be just as safe. So thank you so much for doing this piece of work, and I've no doubt the midwives in your service have really benefited from that. It would be really interesting to actually add into your presentation, maybe going forward, because I'm sure you'll be asked to present this within your service. You certainly should. I think anyone that's had the benefit of doing a Florence Nightingale project leadership course should absolutely be expected to present their findings from their project at every possible meeting that's relevant. So I really hope you do. And if you do, it'd be really helpful to understand how many breech births you get in your organisation per year. I think that would help the audience to get a feel of, you know, what's the size of this issue. And it's also really interesting for me, I think, the point about you can provide training, so you can provide a day's training and it can include simulation, etc. But actually, what happens if that day's training happens on one day and it's not for another 6 months, that a midwife might find herself having to manage a vaginal breech birth? You know, that sort of gap, isn't it, that between the sort of the practice and the information that you've got and received, and then the practice. So it would be interesting to hear a little bit more from you about how you're hoping to fill that gap, bearing in mind that, you know, the numbers of breech births that come through your service. And I noted that you've talked about smaller and regular teaching sessions, which is fantastic. I'm really interested, got so many questions, a bit like Greta was saying before. I'm interested to know if you're developing a vaginal breech birth team, or if your intention is that you want every single midwife in the organisation to learn and have these skills. Yeah, so lots more questions, I guess, but really, really, really fantastic piece of work, Jen. Well done, and again, I'd love to see it published out there and certainly shared with wider in your own organisation. Thank you.
Fabulous, Jen. And I agree. I felt that there was a real motivation, and it was underpinned by wanting to offer that choice to the women that you work with and not accepting the status quo, which is exactly what we're hoping to encourage all of you to do as a result of the programme. Where you see change is needed, you know that you have the opportunity to influence that.